Hello, welcome to Hands Off My Food. I'm your host, Dr. Sina McCullough. Today's topic is how to finally feel good enough. I've chosen this topic because I think that not feeling good enough is a belief system that is widespread in our culture, and especially among people who are sick. Now, personally, I've struggled with this issue for as long as I can remember, and I continue to struggle with it today. To help me address this topic, I've invited Debbie Leoni back to the program. Debbie Leoni is an international speaker, author, personal trainer, and fearless living coach. She teaches personal development by helping people reconnect with their body, mind, and spirit. Debbie helps clients heal past wounds, find their purpose, and create a vision and action plan that allows them to achieve their life goals and to live fearlessly. Debbie offers individual and group coaching in addition to workshops. She also published a book that teaches people how to move from fear into courage. It's called I Am Fearless, 12 Elements of Fearless Living. Now, instead of a typical Q&A interview, I've asked Debbie to join us and address the topic of not feeling good enough through a coaching session. She's actually going to coach me through this topic on camera. And that way you can see the opportunity that life coaching has to offer. Now, welcome back to the program, Debbie.
Thank you, Sina. I'm excited to be here.
It works. I'm thrilled to have you.
Thank you.
Before we begin the coaching session, can you tell us why is it so important to feel like you are good enough? In other words, why should people care about this topic?
So there's many reasons. One reason is that when we don't feel good enough, then it affects how we feel, and how we feel affects what we do. So if we're not feeling good, we're going to be more apt to not take care of ourselves the way we should. Another reason is that when we don't feel good enough, we deny ourselves the fullest experience that life has to offer. And not only do we deny ourselves, but we deny everyone else of who we are and our gifts. So there's many reasons, but those are the top two.
Yeah, and how is not feeling good enough related to disease, either disease formation or disease progression, or your inability to reverse the disease?
So feeling not good enough creates disease, actually, because our thoughts affect how we feel. How we feel affects what we do. And again, if we're feeling in a negative place, we're going to take actions that don't serve us. And also on a physiological level, when we're not feeling expansive, when we're feeling anything negative, we're preventing our body from fully healing. When we allow ourselves to stay in stress, we're denying ourselves, our bodies, that opportunity to heal and rest. And that's what causes disease.
Wonderful. Okay, wonderful. So without further delay, let's go ahead and jump right into the coaching session. And now I want to tell our viewers and our listeners, I have no idea what Debbie is going to ask me. So I'm a little bit nervous. But I'm ready, so fire away.
Well, thank you so much, Sina, for being willing to show the world what a coaching experience is like, because it does require vulnerability and being honest and open. So kudos to you.
Oh, thank you.
So Sina, you stated a while ago that you've struggled with not feeling good enough. Why don't you start, if you don't mind, maybe sharing what is it that you feel least good about yourself? What part of your life do you not feel good enough?
Wow. Sadly, I would say every part of my life. Because I've noticed a pattern in myself that, and this is a recent discovery as I'm going through the spiritual part of my healing journey. I have realized that not feeling good enough is actually what motivates me to be successful. It motivates and encourages my type A perfectionist personality, which I know is detrimental to my healing and to my overall health. So as I've been trying to let go of that type A and transition into more of a rest and recovery, a space a phase in my life or a space in my life where I feel that I can love and accept myself the way that I am, I've noticed that even now when I just spoke those words to you, that I love and accept myself the way that I am, it's almost like I cringe inside. Like I don't believe it. And what really tipped me off to this behavior was the fact that I realized that I can't slow down. Like in life, my husband is very good at, he goes to work and he separates that from his personal life, and he could sit down and he can relax and watch a football game, or he could be at peace. I, on the other hand, always have to be doing. So even if I say, okay, I'm going to give myself 30 minutes, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to watch, an educational show with my children. I'm thinking in my mind, okay, I need to go do this. I need to go post this on my website. I need to go start dinner. I need to be constantly doing.
Yeah.
And I believe that's because I have some sort of deep-rooted fear that I'm not good enough. So in other words, I'm constantly moving, constantly trying to achieve more, to one-up myself so that I could finally feel good enough. So that it's like I need that external validation from others that I'm good enough just to exist.
Yeah. So has there been a time where what you've achieved has had you feeling good enough? Have you ever felt good enough?
Oh, wow. That makes me want to start crying.
Feel it.
Yeah. I don't think so.
So just breathe into that and notice. Like this conversation is really about collecting information, bringing up what needs to come to the surface to see what's there, what's going on in your internal world.
Yeah.
So I just want to acknowledge you for your vulnerability and honesty, and to know that this conversation, I have this same conversation with every single client. Like there's nobody on this earth that, well, I shouldn't say that. I have never worked with anyone who didn't have the issue of not good enough. So you're not alone. So now you get to see this as an opportunity to bust through that stuff that's preventing you from feeling not good enough. And so what came up for you when you answered that question that really I never felt good enough? Say something.
I went back in my mind through times in my life when on paper it would seem like an accomplishment. And I thought, how did I feel during those times? So for instance, like I used to be a champion diver. So when I won the state championship, or when I earned my doctoral degree in nutrition, these are times when these are clear accomplishments like on my resume. But the feeling of good enough may have existed for a moment and then it fleeted. So for a moment, it was good enough. And then that moment passed and it was, what's next? What is the next step to feel good enough again? It never stuck.
Yes. Yeah. And that's a typical response as well, because most of us haven't really considered what's good enough for ourselves. So what happens instead is if we don't know what's good enough, we continue to chase and chase and chase. And like you said, you're never going to get there. It's like you'll get those little fixes, but that good enough feeling is not out there. It's in here. It's in the heart.
Yes. That completely resonates with me because that's what I've done my whole life. Even now thinking back, everything that I would like to say almost everything that I've done, it's to get the external validation. It's so that somebody externally can say to me, okay, now you're good enough, and for me, the reason that's so important is because that means I'm finally good enough to be loved.
Exactly. Yeah. So I heard you say at the beginning that when I asked you what part of your life, you said pretty much all of your life. So
Yeah.
would you like to kind of do some visioning around this conversation?
Sure, I'd love to.
So let's start with the area, kind of like a life wheel exercise. So let's start with the area of your health. If you, on a 1 to 10 scale, if you were to be functioning at a 10 in the area of your health with feeling good enough, what would happen? Or what would you do different?
So if I was operating at a 10, it meaning that a 10 in the mindset that I'm good enough, then how would my life look different?
Yeah. What would you do different?
I would start every day with meditating and exercising. Now,
Okay.
I try to do that, and that is my my objective. Is I meditate and I do my exercise and my equipment's in my room, and I try to do that before the children wake up. It doesn't always happen because if the children wake up early, then they're in the room, and then it's like, okay, well, now the children are the focus. So my exercising, my meditation is going to have to wait, and then of course the day goes, and
Okay.
just that time never happens. But that, I believe, is because I feel like I'm not worth it. Like the kids
Absolutely
are important.
Yeah.
In
So
my
if you were functioning at a 10 with your health, you wouldn't let anything get in the way of you making it a priority because you
That's
would
right.
feel good enough and worthy enough.
That's true. And you know what I do? So I say to myself, if the kids come in and I have not finished either meditating or exercise, I say, okay, I'm going to go feed the kids, get them situated, and then I'm going to come back and put the time in to me to do the exercise and to meditate. But then what happens is the feelings of not good enough are just there, like subconsciously, I guess, that I feel like I need to start moving. So then I go and I start researching things about our food supply. I start writing articles to blog to try to get that external validation.
Absolutely.
That feeling of love.
Yeah. Right.
And I never do the exercise.
Yeah. And so by not honoring what you want to do with your health, you're not loving yourself.
Yes.
So the more we deny ourselves of those internal feelings, the more we seek it outside of ourselves.
Yes.
And the opposite is true. The more love we give ourselves, the less we need it from the outside.
Wow.
Right?
Yes. Yes.
So let's move to the area of your career. On a 1 to 10 scale, if you felt good enough at a 10, what would happen?
So in my career, if I did feel good enough, I would write more from the heart.
Instead of
Writing what I think people need to hear, or that maybe what people want to hear, I would write what I'm passionate about. And I would be more vulnerable in my writing.
And what if that's what people need and want to hear? Right?
Yeah. I hadn't thought about it that way. I viewed it as more of, if I allow myself to be vulnerable in the writing, and then people don't like it, or you could quickly just pick the thumbs down, or that would, because I'm searching for the external validation, that it would just hurt too much, and it would tell me that I'm not loved.
Exactly. Yeah, and what if they don't like it when you're writing from your head? Either way, there will be people that won't like it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, that's a hard thing to accept, though, right? As a people pleaser, right? As somebody who's looking for the external validation, it's really difficult to accept that no matter how good my writing is, or no matter how good the idea is, there's always going to be someone who doesn't like it. Like, how do you live with that?
What would make it easy to accept that?
If I knew I was good enough.
Right?
Right? If I accept and love myself exactly the way I am.
Right?
Yes, I see the circular logic here. Like,
What about in the area of your family? If you felt completely good enough at a 10, what would be different?
I can probably a lot of things. I could tell you the first thing that I know that would be different is I would spend more time with them. I would spend probably less time worried about people liking me or accepting me, and I would shift that energy to just share in the space with my family in a relaxed, calm behavior instead of a kind of a low grade. Oftentimes I feel like it's a low grade, almost anxiety that rests deep inside of me. Because even though I want to be spending all this time with my family and I want to learn to be more in the moment with them, because I know these young years go by so fast. And I feel like I'm missing it, even though I homeschool and I'm with them all the time. I still feel like I'm missing it because I can't seem to permanently or for long periods of time let go of this low grade level of anxiety. And that prevents me from really being in the moment with my children.
Yeah, and so by not feeling good enough with your family, what are you denying your kids and family?
Me. The real me.
Right?
Like the open, the vulnerable me.
Mm-hmm. Right? What about in the area of your marriage? If you felt completely good enough, what would be different? If you were at a 10?
We'd go on dates. We would make more time to have the one-on-one intimacy. And we don't do that because I'm constantly trying to prove myself to everybody else but my family.
Right? What are you feeling right now?
I feel sad. But I feel hopeful that, like you said, it makes me feel better that you've said in your experience, I'm not alone, that this is a common thread. And I feel hope that I feel like recognizing it, sitting with it and being honest is the first step. And for me, I think making the decision to change is the next step. And so I feel hope that I can do that. If I fully commit to it, I can move from this low grade level of anxiety into a point. The point I want to get to is where I can look myself in the mirror, in my eyes, and say, I love you and accept you exactly the way you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how do I do that?
Right? I want the answer right now. Well, you're doing it. Like you said, this is the first step, bringing it to your awareness and imagining what you could experience if you allowed yourself to feel good enough.
Yeah.
So why don't you close your eyes for a minute and just settle in. Notice how you're feeling, Sina. Just really acknowledging your courage and strength. Just see if you can find that place inside where your peace always resides. And as you do, I want you to begin to visualize your life as if you're feeling totally good enough and worthy. And begin by noticing what you'd be doing if you felt totally good enough about your health. You'd be doing yoga and meditation, prayer daily, no matter what. You'd be spending quality time with your kids, really being present looking into their sweet eyes. And they're getting that mommy is totally with me. Imagine that you'll be having regular date nights, feeling really connected with your husband, feeling good about it. You'd be doing your writing from your heart space and not caring what the outcome is, because you're speaking from your heart. Really allow yourself to visualize all of that, Sina. And as you do, you begin to notice how your immune system is smiling. Really allow yourself to become present to the feelings that are available by choosing to feel good enough. Notice how empowered you'll feel and confident and loved and loving. Breathe that in. Allow it to fill up your heart space. Open your heart to it. And see if that's what you want more of. Say yes to it silently. Tell yourself, I'm no longer willing to tell myself I'm not good enough. Because as I do, I'm teaching my kids to believe they aren't good enough. So breathe that in and silently tell yourself, I am completely good enough just as I am. And then open your eyes when you're ready.
That was amazing.
What did you notice?
I noticed that when I first closed my eyes, I was sad and thinking of all the moments that I've lost with my family because out of my insecurity. But then as you guided me through the visualization and it was almost tangible, my visuals. And a sense of calm came over me and joy.
Mm.
And I loved it. I loved what I was seeing. And I loved the person that I was in all of those different venues, at home with my kids, with my husband, sitting at the computer, pouring my heart out. I loved it. And it was to the point where I felt excited inside, like excited at the possibility that can be my life. It's a choice, right? All I have to do is make the choice. And it may be a daily choice or a moment by moment choice, but
it is.
I can have that life.
Yes.
And when I came to that realization, I felt here in my heart space, I felt it start to open. Mm-hmm. Like it was almost it was like a liberating sense. Like I found this small piece of freedom. And I was showing myself I could have this freedom every day, every moment in my life if I make the choice.
And you know, what you just shared, like, this is how you heal yourself. You know, you can continue to eat exactly the way you're supposed to, make all the healthy choices, but until you shift this belief and take responsibility for your internal world, it's going to continue to negatively affect your immune system. Right? So this work is the answer to your first question. This is how it's not feeling good enough is going to heal you, body, mind, and spirit. And you're already feeling it right now. Yeah. Right? How cool is that?
I know, it's amazing. And what's amazing too is that, you know, when I realized that there is this entire spiritual journey to have healing, then it was a little bit there's an echo. Are you reading that?
No.
Okay. It was a little bit stressful to me because I thought, I know how to do the physical work, right? I know how to find my food triggers. I know how to repair a leaky gut, right? I know how to determine what supplements I need, what nutrients I'm deficient in. Like, I know all of these, what I'd call the more physical steps in healing.
Yep.
And but I don't know the spiritual side as much, right? You're not trained to know that, right? Through all my schooling. And I don't think the way that many of us are raised, we're trained to be in tune with our feelings and to move through these different energy states. But what I am finding in my own experience and my research is that all those steps you can go through to reverse a disease, if you do all I lay out 4 physical steps, you can do all those steps and reverse the disease. But the way to keep it in remission, right, the way to keep it reversed is to address that 5th step, which is the spiritual step.
Absolutely.
I strongly believe that without that step, the disease can and most likely will come back.
I believe it, and I know it. I know it. And you will know it more the more you choose to live it, you know?
Yes.
And by living it, you're going to be a greater contribution with your career, because you're going to be aligning your head, which you need, with the heart, not just the head.
Yes. Yes.
Right?
Oh, yeah. And I firmly believe that. It's I've been able to, I've made strides, and we're all in our own space and along the path. We're all on our own spot, on our own path. And in my journey, I've made a lot of strides spiritually, and I've had moments where I am able to sit in the moment with my kids and actually be at peace in that moment. And so once I felt it and felt how great it feels, and felt not only how great mentally it feels and spiritually, like in my heart, but how my body responded to it.
Yes. Yes.
It was amazing. The tension, it was in that moment that I realized how much tension I actually keep in my body.
Yeah.
Even after a massage, the tension is still there.
That's
and
right.
So feeling that instant affirmation that is where my body wants to be, that's my goal now, that I strive to be in that space more often. And what you just brought me through with that visualization exercise, that showed me that even though I'm in a good space now, even though the disease is reversed, I am happier than I have been. I can go in and out of the moment if when I'm trying. But you just showed me that there's an even higher level that I could get to, like a higher level of freedom, of joy, of gratitude, and there's a whole nother level of health that's waiting if I just reach out to it. Grab it.
And a new level of contribution.
Yeah.
Right? So at the end of all of my coaching sessions, there's always a call to action, because this is the first step is awareness. Okay, I got this. But it's not worth anything if there's not an action to reflect the awareness. So what's one step that you will take this week because of the insight you gained? What's one thing you'll do?
In each aspect of my life, or
just let's just do one, and then maybe you can spend some time in the other areas. But what's the first thing that you feels like you most need to do?
I would like to. Well, 2 are competing in my mind.
Okay.
I would like to today be able to be fully present for my children.
Okay. So what will you need to do each day to be fully present to them?
So the thing that is preventing me from being fully present is my work, which is self-driven, of course. So maybe what I could do is start by even just carving out, like, here's 30 minutes, and this is my time for my children. I'm going to turn off the computer, I'm going to turn off the phone, turn off the TVs, everything electronic, and I'm just going to sit with them and do what they want to do.
What will that feel like?
Like I'm finally good enough for them. Like I'm showing them that they are good enough.
Right. And what's the biggest excuse that would get in the way of you making that happen?
Work.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. The feeling like, okay, I need to write another blog, or I need to put a post on.
What structure will you need to put in place to make sure that you don't let work get in the way? So in other words, will you have to make an appointment with yourself from 3 to 3:30 every day, or set an alarm, or what will you have to do to make sure you walk away from your work?
I like that, because that's my addiction, is work. So I think the best approach for me would be to set an appointment with myself, and that is my work appointment.
Right.
Set the timer, and when that timer goes off, no matter where I'm at, it's just done for the day.
Awesome.
Well, that's going to be hard.
Well, it sounds like you're going to need some accountability around that. Most of us need accountability.
Yes.
So what, can you use your husband to be your accountability partner? Do you want to text me and let me know that you did it? Like, what do you need to make sure you did it?
Sure. Yes. So I would prefer to text you.
Okay.
Yeah. My husband already spends so much time like listening to me, like talk about my emotional struggles and, bounce ideas off of him about the food supply. So I should probably, respect his boundaries and give him a little break.
Okay. Cool. So how do you feel right now?
I feel encouraged, and it sounds a little silly, but I feel like I just gave myself a big hug.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And I feel excited to see how are my kids going to respond to this.
They're going to be like, what? What's mommy doing?
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm excited because, like you said, the biggest motivator for me, because, if you're not feeling good enough, I think it's hard to put yourself first. So
Absolutely.
For me, some of these steps are going to require a different perspective mentally. So right now my perspective is I don't want my children to not feel good enough.
Absolutely.
So what can I do to help them feel good? And
yes.
Right now, and for my children, love equals time with them. So I'm excited about this. I'm going to do my 30 minutes, and then and I'll actually, if you're okay with it, I'll report back to you and email you, tell you how.
Absolutely. Great. Well, I hope you enjoyed being the guinea pig and being so transparent. It's awesome.
I really enjoyed it. Like I said, I was nervous to see what questions you were going to ask, and this is obviously a very sensitive topic for me. This is my deep-rooted trigger for just disease and lack of joy. So I appreciate the opportunity of you coming onto the program and sharing your wisdom and your encouragement. It's truly a blessing to have met you and to have
Thank
you
you.
here.
Well, I want to offer to any of the viewers here, if they would like to be led through a discovery session, whether it's phone or video, or if they're local, I'm near Chicago, do it live in person. It's definitely worth it because you'll get to really see what's possible by being coached and learning how to feel good enough.
I love that. Oh, what a blessing for our viewers and for our listeners. I really hope you all take advantage of that. As you can see, Debbie is brilliant in her life coaching. I highly recommend you contact her. It's a free one-on-one session with Debbie. I mean, you can't go wrong. It's free. If you would like to take advantage of that opportunity that Debbie's graciously offering to us, you can reach her through her website, DebbieLeoni.com. That's DebbieLeoni.com. And I'll also post a link to her website. When I post this video, you can find it on my website, handsoffmyfood.com, on YouTube, and on our new Facebook site. Thank you again, Debbie.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Okay, until next time, I hope you all have a wonderful day.